Week 5 is in the books, and we have a lot to cover. What's up, guys? My name is Jake, and welcome into Somewhere in the Middle, the Big 12 show here to play the fight song. As always, we're brought to you by our partners over at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. If you guys are a Big 12 fan, you guys got to go check these guys out. They have a ton of Big 12 teams on their slate. If they don't have your team yet, they surely will soon. They're dropping hats and dropping teams by the weekly. Go to teams, request a team at the bottom of the tab, and make sure you let them know each and every single week. They're doing their due diligence. These guys are awesome. It's the best hats in all of collegiate sports. Use the code PTFS at checkout to get yourselves free shipping. That's shopnorivals.com. We really appreciate those guys. What we do every single week, if you're new to the show, first of all, appreciate you tuning in. We will get to the prediction segment at the end. We have a lot to get to on the week 6 slate. 4-3 in our picks last week, so not bad. Even though we were completely missed on a couple of those, boy, oh boy. But if you guys comment below which team is going to win their Big 12 game this week, say Arizona State beats Kansas, you say they win 30-27, you give us a score prediction. If you get those two things right, and of course, if you're subscribed to us, we will get you guys a hat over at our partners at No Rivals. That's for the prediction segment at the end. All right, what we usually do at this show, I always give you guys a player of the week. We go through our winners and losers, but we're going to change it up a little bit tonight. Too much happened last week. There's a lot of people on Twitter who want to voice their opinions on the Big 12 that might be new to the conference, which is okay. We always love the publicity, but there's a lot of different opinions on things. Power rankings are going up and down in this conference. So what I normally do, and what we're going to actually do tonight, is we're going to do a temp check on each team in this conference. We're not going to give winners and losers because I think that can get a little bit recycled as we go through this week. It seems like we're 2 weeks into the conference slate for the Big 12. We kind of know what we have with some of these teams. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered right now. So let's do a temp check. Let's check in on your team. Let's see how they're doing. We're about halfway through, and are they going to get to the finish line? Are they where you guys thought they would be at this point? And kind of let us know how you're feeling as a fan. Comments are always appreciated. We love interacting in this show at Play the Fight Song. All right. What we will do the same this week, like we have done in the past, we got to do players of the week. Let's start with them right away. Offensively, my man, Giddens, almost thought it could get away from Kansas State after a turnover and a touchdown by Oklahoma State. And I was like, whoa, this prediction might go in the trash too. But no, ran the ball super well. Giddens was awesome again, 187 yards with one score. Anytime he can cross the 150 mark, I think that this team could be the best team in the conference. We won't dive into too much of my opinion on Kansas State, but got to shout out DJ Giddens. He's my offensive player of the week. Defensively, Tacario Davis, Arizona. He is probably, outside of Travis Hunter, the best corner in this league. Now, Mello Dotson, Kobe Bryant over at Kansas are pretty good. That defense kind of struggles. He's solid, man. 7 tackles, 5 pass deflections. As you can see there, held his former teammate and Dorian Singer pretty well. I mean, I think Singer got to about 90 yards, but other than that, Money Parks didn't get going. Isaac Wilson gets the start for Utah, and that offense sputtered again, and Davis is one of those reasons, man. The secondary played pretty well for Arizona. Utah really struggled to move the ball, and seemed like Davis was on every single pass deflection that was thrown his way. So really good play from him. Those are my 2 offensive and defensive players of the week. All right, we ran through that quickly because, again, we have a ton to get to. We're covering all 16 teams. What's the temp check? What's the vibes? I'm going to give a brief summary on kind of where every single one of these teams are at. And isn't that the great thing about the Big 12? My opinion tonight could change in 2 weeks if you come back to me, because it just seems like each and every single week in this conference, we get a new answer. We get a different answer every single week. But I feel like this is a good assessment. Most teams are 4, 5, 6 games in at this point, and I think we have a decent check of where we're at. So we're going to go alphabetical here. We got to start with Arizona. The Wildcats. Big win last week. Huge win. Remember, and I have to be reminded of this, they are undefeated in conference play. The Kansas State game doesn't count. That's going to be huge for them down the road. I think they were a huge benefit to that, to honestly get punched in the mouth, kind of learn a thing or two about them. They're like, okay, this is what it takes to compete in this league. And they got a week to reset with the bye. They go into Utah. Yes, they did not see a Cam Rising with Utah, which is in Vegas, probably a 7-point difference. But they did what they had to, man. Isaac Wilson got it done on the road in Stillwater last week. So for them to go into a blackout at Rice Eccles to come out with a win was huge. The play calling duties get switched to Matt Atkins. He was the tight ends coach. They're flipping it over to him, taking it away from Dino Babers. I think that's a good call. Offensively, I still think they struggle with their identity. If it's not going to T-Mac, I say this time and time again, I'm not sure exactly who it's going to go to. T-Mac didn't even lead them in receiving last week, so that was pleasant to see, but I don't think a receiver got over 100 yards. It's not like the offense won on this road game, and they still need to find a running back. I don't know when Krosky Merritt's going to come back. The Conley kid ran okay. They had another kid that ran the ball hard. Noah Fafita doesn't look as good as he was last year at this point. So identity, offensively, still struggled. Changed the play calling over to Atkins at this point. Not a bad call. I was impressed with the line of scrimmages. They thought they got manhandled in the Kansas State game. I think that was a well-known fact. A little bit of undiscipline, some bad penalties, and they came into Rice Eccles Saturday night, and they took care of business, and they looked like they got stuff done over the bye week. So my opinion changes a little bit about Arizona. I could still see them contending in this conference. I think they're probably sitting at a top 6, maybe top 5 team in this league. And I do change my opinion on. I kind of thought they were out of it. I didn't think they were going to be a contender after the Kansas State game, but that's why we play the games, right? And you get a bye week, and now you get 2 this year to figure things out. So that's where I see Arizona. Let's go to the other side of the state. Arizona State took a week off. Okay, we get to see them back in action. Huge game this Saturday against Kansas. I think that's an opportunity for them. They could get a win. We obviously know where Coach Leipold and that Kansas football team is at right now. What I think about over Arizona State in the few games I've watched them, I saw them in the Wyoming game, Texas State game really caught my eye. This team's not overly talented. Obviously, we kind of knew that going into the year, right? But Coach Dillingham has got this team buttoned up, and they fight hard. This is a hard-nosed football team. The defensive line's better than I thought it was. Obviously, you put the ball in Bo Scabo's hands, and that guy's a rock. Now, he hasn't been producing as well as he was in the first 3 games. Obviously, right? They're going up in a much bigger talent scale than Wyoming, Texas State, and I think they had an FCS school sandwiched in between there. But he's still going to be tough. He's going to run the football. I think he defines this team well. And this team has a shot to go to a bowl game, which would be a massive win for Arizona State. I do think this weekend is a must win against Kansas. I believe it's a night game also. You have Kansas, you have Utah at home. Like, if Cam Rising's not playing, that's up in the air, right? You go to at Cincinnati, that'll be a tougher one, but something I think you won't be less. I mean, probably won't be an underdog for more than a touchdown, I would imagine. At Oklahoma State, I mean, we've seen where that team's at right now. Big game for them this weekend. UCF at home. I think you can run the ball on UCF. Then you get BYU at home. BYU, I really think they're doing nice things, but we'll obviously get to them here soon. I still think they got some identity issues. But that's what I think about Arizona State. It's going to be tough sledding. I think their remaining schedule is still tough. But if they win this weekend against Kansas, watch out for this team. Let's next one. Baylor. For those who want me to go into a deeper dive of Baylor, I'm going to keep it short just because over at Play the Fight Song, we cover Iowa State fan perspectives, Iowa fan perspectives in Nebraska. Obviously, I cover the Iowa State side of things. If you've listened to the show, you know that's my team. I go into Baylor more in depth, obviously, for them playing Iowa State this weekend and kind of my thoughts of that game. Baylor right now, the comments from Aranda in the press conferences, they're alarming. We know Dave is bland. He's not going to mix. He's not going to keep you on your toes. But I think right now Baylor fans just want answers, and the home attendance is glaring for that. If you're not going to give this fan base answers, why should they support you? Some suspensions, like the Stenton kid, the defensive end I covered. He was suspended last week. He will play Saturday come to find out, which is good. But why is he suspended in the first place? Bye week after Iowa State. Night game. You know my thoughts on where that game might go. It could get ugly. Will David Rand have a job next Sunday? Just pointing that out there. Interim coach, get through the bye week. The portal is closing for some of these guys who haven't played 4 games. Keep your roster around. Move in a bigger direction. Move in a better direction. And also, they just have no identity on offense, and they beat themselves every week. It seems like at this point, the first half slow starts are inexcusable, quite honestly. All right, let's go to one of the remaining unbeaten teams in the conference, the BYU Cougars. Here's one thing for sure. All right, I know I've been a little skeptical on this team, and BYU fans, if you want to let me know in the comments, that's perfectly fine. You're undefeated. You have the right to voice your opinion. This defense, I know, is top 5 in this league. Tyler Batty, the Robinson kid, the linebackers are decent. Like, they fly around. I really like this team defensively. How far can it take this entire team? Jake Retzloff has been better. 2 bad interceptions in that Baylor game that allowed them to come back. I still think he's got that tendency. Arizona, Oklahoma State, at UCF for your next 3 games. I mean, you definitely could be 8-0. Now, the cross-country trip to UCF could be interesting, but 2 winnable home games for you guys right now. Arizona's obviously feeling good about themselves winning in that state last weekend. That's going to be an awesome game. Awesome game. I think BYU still could win 9 or 10 games. I still don't have this team in my conference title. Just going to put that out there. Let's watch Arizona and let's figure that one out before I move any farther. All right. And under the radar team, let's go to Cincinnati. Satterfield's been great. I've been kind of a doubter of his. I'm not sure if I thought he was good enough for this job, but Cincinnati offensively has legit weapons. I talked about the Corey Kiner kid at running back, and they had 2 other guys on Saturday who ran the ball really, really well against Texas Tech. Now, most teams run well against Texas Tech, but it still takes weapons to get out in space and use their speed, and I think Cincinnati has that. Brandon Sorsby was really good this year up until I thought he made too many turnovers in their loss on Saturday that kind of cost him the game, but if he cleans those up, I don't know. He's definitely top half in this league. He could be in the top 6 or 5 for me. I think he's really accurate. I think he's pretty damn good. He has really surprised me coming from Indiana. They had 550 yards of offense last week. Still didn't find a way to win the game. Again, it's the turnovers. They cleaned that up and they get an awesome win last week. But hey, on this podcast, guys, we had Texas Tech, so we never a doubt all along. All right. I think everybody wants to hear my opinion on this team. I think everybody has an opinion on this team, right? Colorado. Does my opinion completely 360 after last week when I gave you guys a UCF as a lock? A little bit. The defense battled tough. They forced KJ to throw a lot of passes, and I said, you're not going to win with KJ Jefferson throwing more than 20 passes. He threw 35. They handled the run game really well. I did not expect that to slow down RJ Harvey at all. I'm sorry, I'm kind of at a loss for words and train of thought there. Harvey gets 71 yards. They get down so fast and they couldn't keep up. The one thing I think this team struggles with is a dual threat quarterback. Now you'd argue KJ Jefferson's a dual threat quarterback a little bit. Not really. It's more like design runs for him, if anything. A guy like, I look at Avery Johnson, who they play in 2 weeks. That's a guy who can actually get outside the pocket, uses his legs, uses that as a playmaking ability of his. Those guys they struggle against. You saw the North Dakota State quarterback that pretty much ran pretty well against them. Obviously, another guy, I mean, Sawyer Robertson, he led the team in rushing against Colorado, and not a great performance, but they should have won that game. So this team has still some weaknesses. It's dual threat quarterbacks. We'll see how far that can take them. But this passing attack, I will say it, It can beat anybody in this conference. They could win the rest of the games the rest of the year. Do I think they will? No, I don't trust the defense. I don't trust the consistency, but the passing attack is good enough to beat anybody in this league on any Saturday. I will admit that. So I was wrong on that. It's fun to watch Shedeur Sanders. I've always said that, even when I've doubted. So next one, Houston. Defense it's tough. It's stingy. It's going to try and keep them in games this year. I just hope at some point they don't check out on Fritz. They don't check out on the offense, because this is one of the worst offenses in college football, guys. Whether it's Chris, whether it's Donovan Smith, they can't throw the ball. It's like, as an Iowa State fan, in comparison, it's Iowa last year bad. That's how bad it is. The Snead kid runs for him. He runs okay, but you're just going to load the box on him by the second quarter. The defense will keep them in games for a lot of the season left, but at some point, it's kind of a mentality thing, right? You're just probably going to go out there and not work as hard when offensively is probably just going to go 3 and out next. So I hope the defense continues to play hard. I hope they continue to play hard for Fritz, but this is a team that I don't know if they will win a conference game going forward. All right. Won't dive into this too much. I feel like I give my opinion on this team for too long every single week. Iowa State, I like where they're at right now. Are the wins impressive? Not really, but 5-0 at this point, you would take it if you talk to us in August. Defensively has been really impressive. The linebackers have been even more impressive for how young they are. If you really want to go in depth on the defense, I think the edge rushers could be a little better. I think the interior's been really good. Dom Orange, J.R. Singleton. And offensively, this team needs a third receiver. Now, of course, I'm going to give a little more in-depth of an answer on this team just because I watch them every Saturday, right? But this team needs a third receiver, and Rocco has been inconsistent in the first half for pretty much every game this year, which could bite him in the ass. Maybe not this week against Baylor, but definitely in Morgantown next week if it comes to be it. So Kansas, the weapons are still there. They still have ran the ball really well this year, despite Daniels' inability to throw the ball. Excuse me. Devin Neal is still, guys, he's still a top 5 back in this league. And it's honestly too bad he's not getting his recognition. Daniel Highshaw runs it well when he gets his touches. The quarterback just hasn't been what he is. And this was a clown right here who had this team in the Big 12 title. I drank the Kool-Aid. I thought if Daniels was healthy, it was going to be good enough, and it's not. I still think Jeff Grimes is putting him in bad situations, but honestly, man, even Daniels' last interception he threw on Saturday against TCU, it's I don't even know what you can call at that point. The kid's just set on throwing a bad ball, and he just throws it into coverage, and he's not even thinking about it. It's kind of too bad to see. Like I said, they go on the road at Tempe this weekend. They don't win that one. It's a must win for both sides. If they don't win that one, you wonder where the direction of this team's heading the rest of the year. I still think the weapons are there. I like Grimm. They still have Arnold. Guys, he's probably a top 5 receiver in this league too. They probably have a top 5 receiver and a top 5 running back on their team. And the offense is just so inept because they throw so many picks. So Daniels is, I think I looked it up. He's bottom 3 in college football in picks this year. It just can't happen. Can't happen from your quarterback. All right. K-State. We got to highlight DJ Giddens again. As an Iowa State fan, you got to admit, it sucks to watch, but man, he's a lot of fun to watch. He is a workhorse. When Giddens and Johnson run the ball well, when they both reach 100 yards, I'd love to look that stat up. When they both reach 100 yards, I'm sure they will probably never lose a game. I'm going to set that fact. I'd have to go back and check out their loss to see, but I'm almost positive Johnson did not get to 100 yards. I think he struggled. They asked him to throw it too much. He just didn't look good. So I'll say it right now, I'm confident enough to say they will win every game if they both reach 100 yards rushing. And obviously this team will go as far as Avery Johnson's throwing abilities probably take them. I think the defense is getting better. Like the defense was really stout in the second half. Like we know Oklahoma State struggles to run the football, but they were stout and I thought they played pretty damn well. So this team is still top 2 or 3 in the league for me. All right, we got to move through these a little quicker. We're running short on time. We try to keep these at a half hour. Oklahoma State, the offensive line and the running back, both shells of themselves. A guy like a former starter entered the portal already. Like that just kind of tells you where this team is at. They've played the 2 best teams in the conference. So I'm like a little bullish to not just dump the entire season. Like, let's see what they've got against West Virginia this weekend before I really change my opinion. If anybody can turn it around, it's Mike Gundy. Come back to me in 2 weeks. This is a team that I'm like, let's slow the brakes on just saying this team's bad. They are out of Big 12 title contention probably, but like they're going to be good enough to probably and have as much talent on offense to still upset teams and ruin their seasons or ruin their aspirations at a title shot, probably in November. Next one, Texas Tech. Joey McGuire and company has really been, turning around for the most part. Defensively, they're still kind of a disaster, but the offense is finding its groove, and I think that's what we knew in the first place. My opinion changed on them a little bit in the beginning just because this was, one of your dark horses to compete in this league, right? But it was never going to be on the defense. I thought the defense would be at least average, right? You can't give up 500 yards to Cincinnati. It just can't happen. And Taj Brooks is starting to run the ball well, though. When Baron Morton doesn't throw interceptions, this offense can find a groove. I'd have to go back and look. It looked like Brooks had at least 5+ 10-yard runs. He was a stud. I'll say it. He's the best running back in this league right now. RJ Harvey's probably second, maybe DJ Giddens third. Ollie Gordon, we're still checking to see if he's there. Not really sure. All right, couple teams left. TCU as one of, I think this was a lot of people's dark horse favorites. It wasn't for me. And for a lot of reasons. I think the defense is not very good. I'm not sure if they're really even coached that well, to be honest. And this was a guy who coached in a national championship 2 years ago. The run game if the run game doesn't get better, it will never maximize the potential of how good the passing attack could be. I was not a believer in Josh Hoover, even though they've struggled this year. I've changed my opinion on that kid. I think he's really, really good. But when you're asked to throw the ball, 40, 50 times a game and being so young, you're going to make mistakes, right? Cam Cook, the running backs, the offensive line just has to be better. You cannot rely on Hoover to just do all of those things for you. Savion Williams is a good receiver. I think they still have JP Richardson. I think there was like TCU fans, this is like a Jake Botch or something this weekend. Jack Botch. He had a lot of good catches, had a couple touchdowns in the Kansas game. They're loaded at receiver. I like the passing attack. Defense is not very good. They can't run the ball. So you kind of know how far this will take them. They'll upset a couple of teams. They're not going to be your dark horse. Now, speaking of dark horse, man, I drank the Kool-Aid. I drank the Kool-Aid too much. And now I'm pulling myself back a little bit on UCF. They still have a manageable schedule left. I think they could still run the table in some spots, but they can't defend the pass. They are not good in coverage. Their secondary is not good. And we kind of knew that going in. Like I kind of knew that before the season started, but I thought the defensive pass rush would be a little better to like support the strength of the secondary and like give them less time for opposing quarterbacks to make decisions. So maybe we wouldn't see how bad that secondary is. But the defensive line is just not helping them out. And you're finding out how bad the secondary is. Hoover just took them apart, especially in that first half a couple of weeks ago. They got a little better as the game went on. And then they made that comeback clearly, thanks to some big plays by Kobe Hudson, RJ Harvey in that game. But Shedeur Sanders in that passing attack in Colorado exposed everything about that defense this weekend. Offensive line's it's disappointing. And you have to block for KJ Jefferson. I've defended KJ. he's good when you help him out. And at this point, you're not helping him out. So that's what I think about UCF. Still could be a dark horse. We'll have to wait and see. Utah, this might be the shortest thing. Like, I can't give you an answer until I see Cam Rising. You want an answer if Isaac Wilson has to play the rest of the year, this team wins 8 games, 8 games, probably. Like, the offense is just, I've never seen a team so different without their starting quarterback. Like, I get it. It's hard to replace your starting quarterback, but Utah just makes it look impossible at this point. I've seen it 2 weeks in a row. Like, the defense helped them out with that win in Stillwater, but the offense still has issues, and I have no idea what Cam Rising is going to play because we don't get injury reports, right? All right, West Virginia, last one. I just think defense is not very good. Like, this was my dark horse, so I'm wrong in saying that, right? I think the defense has let us down this year, especially in that Pitt game. You can't give up 2 touchdowns in 3 minutes to lose the game. Like, you got to hold on and bow up. But still in Morgantown, you still have a guy who can use his legs like Garrett Green, solid running backs. They're going to catch some teams off guard. Sneak peek, I'm going to the Iowa State, West Virginia game next week. That's definitely a chance where like this team can catch a top team in the Big 12 off guard. Night game in Morgantown, that's definitely a spot where this team could be at its best. So we'll have to wait and see. I sure hope I'm wrong. I want to make my trip worth it, but really excited to also get out there in Morgantown. So West Virginia fans, let us know in the comments, like, let's meet up somewhere. Let us know where we need to go. I'm really excited. I've only heard great things about Morgantown. So, all right, that's kind of the room check of where this team's at. Ran a little long, but that's what happens when you got to cover 16 teams in about a minute on each. I think the opinions on these could change. Maybe we'll do that in the beginning of November, but I want to see October play out because I think October could be really interesting. So that being said, prediction time. Again, guys, predictions are partnered by our partners over at No Rivals, shopnorivals.com. Any of the Big 12 games this weekend, give us a winner, give us a score prediction. Make sure you're subscribed. If you go 2 for 2 and you use the code PTFS at checkout, we will get you guys a hat over at No Rivals. So let's go predictions. 4-3 last week. Not bad. Completely whiffed on UCF. Completely whiffed on Utah. Got Cincy, TCU, K-State. Iowa State? I think that was the one I was thinking of. Iowa State. So not a bad week. We'll see what happens this week. Let's run through it. At TCU. Just like TCU's got to keep this week. I think they're at this point a 15-point favorite. That's a Friday night, I believe, if I got that right. Houston, just like, can they force TCU to run the ball? Force Cam Cook in that running game to run the football. That's going to be your shot because they can't do it. So can you limit Josh Hoover? I think the weak link of the Houston defense is the secondary. So that's a concern to me. I'm just not so sure about this one. And I don't know, like TCU's defense it's not frightening. So can we finally see some positive things from either of the Houston quarterbacks? We'll have to wait and see. Give me TCU in that one. I don't think there's any question. West Virginia at Oklahoma State. This West Virginia defense, got just absolutely gashed by Penn State. I think Des Reed in that Pitt offense had some success. Like, we haven't really seen this defense for West Virginia defend the pass or the run very well. Like, they've lost in 2 different aspects a couple times this year, right? Like, can Ollie Gordon finally get going? I'm still, like I said, still a little bullish on it. I think we still have to wait and see before we just come to conclusions on this team. I don't like kind of where the locker room's at, especially because even last year, guys, like they didn't go to Wrangle. Like they didn't bench Bowman last year. That was like the big red flag for me, was benching Bowman a couple weeks ago. Because as a 7th-year guy, how do you still see ghosts out there in the secondary? That being said, sorry, I'm just pulling up the Big 12 lines this week. 3.5 points is Oklahoma State's favored by. It's hard to pick road teams in this league. I think Oklahoma State gets it done because I think West Virginia is just foaming at the mouth for that Iowa State game next week. Night game, those coal miner uniforms. I think West Virginia kind of sleeps through this one, and I finally think Oklahoma State's offense gets going. This is my last chance. I will say if they don't get going on this Oklahoma State defense, I could be out on this team the rest of the year. This is a little non-conference matchup. UCF travels to Florida. Gross. UCF favored by 3 in Gainesville. Like, you can hear some of our thoughts at Play the Fight Song on our live Wednesday shows for the overall college landscape. This could be a fireable offense for Billy Napier if they fall to this one, if Gus Malzahn and company gets this done in Gainesville. I mean, come on now. I'm not going to pick against the favored Big 12 team on the show. Like, who do we think we are here? Give me UCF. Billy Napier doesn't have a job on Sunday with Dave Aranda. And yeah, I think UCF needs to run the ball better against and they have an opportunity against a really bad Florida defense, slow Florida defensive line. Kansas at Arizona State. Arizona State is favored by 3 because why wouldn't they in this conference? Must win again for both teams. Must win for Arizona State to try to get a bowl, which would be a huge win for them. Must win for Kansas, who would be 1-5. I mean, Jayhawk fans, are you checked out or you're just like, is this your last leg? I don't know. I think that Arizona State has so much more to fight for in this game, and I'm going to take the home team, especially with the point spread so close. Does Kansas even show fight in this game? We'll have to wait and see. Watch their film. Watch Arizona State's film against Jordan McLeod in Texas State. Jordan McLeod's a much better quarterback than Jalen Daniels is right now. Still similar skill set, very mobile, quick, gets it off fast. And Arizona State shut him down in the second half. I think that's the key to success against Kansas, because even Texas State's got Ishmael Mahdi, good running back, not as good as Devin Neal, but they've kind of seen a recipe of how to have success on these athletic teams like Kansas still presents. I still think they do. Texas Tech at Arizona. Arizona is favored by 6. This is huge, man. I haven't taken a road team this week. We have a very light slate, by the way. Haven't taken a road team in these interconference games. I took UCF, of course, but with Arizona, I think they've got a big opportunity to finally get that offense going again. Like, we haven't seen it in the Kansas State game. We still didn't see it in the Utah game. We saw it in the New Mexico game. Oh, is New Mexico's defense as bad as good, as Texas Tech's? It's not even close. And Texas Tech's still slightly below average. But I think this is an opportunity for Arizona to get back. I just based on what I saw from Texas Tech at home last week against a solid offense out of Cincinnati, I think Arizona gets right again on offense. I think Arizona gets right on offense. I think Oklahoma State gets right on offense. These are two teams that we've kind of wrote out a couple of weeks ago, maybe even last week. This is the Big 12, man. I think people finally find their grooves in October. If Taj Brooks gets to 150 yards, it keeps them in this game. Like New Mexico had success running the ball in this Arizona defense before it was starting to finally find its groove. But I think T-Mac, if you guys are into player props on bets, might be a play this week. Take whatever T-Mac's over is in receiving yards and give me Arizona to win at home. Iowa State at Baylor. Go back to our channel, by the way. Make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate you guys tuning in as we wrap this up through the whole episode. Appreciate you guys listening tonight. I won't go into it a ton. I think Iowa State's going to be really jacked up for this whiteout game, this night game. Sounds like they're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff. If you didn't see that, 6:30 on Fox. Based on how Baylor started in the first half, Iowa State is not a team you can have a slow start in the first half and then make up for it in the second half like you have in other games this year. Just don't see it possible. That crowd will be too jacked up, and I'll be a part of it. So Really looking at that. Give me the Cyclones. So, all right, as we wrap this up, we have TCU, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, UCF, Arizona State, and Arizona. Kind of basic on picks this week. We're siding more with the favorites, but I think the favorites have a lot of edges in the games this week. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, predictions. I know we don't have a huge slate this week, but let us know who you think is going to win. Drop a comment below the score prediction. Go 2 for 2. You guys get a hat over at our friends at shopnorivals.com. All right, that's week 6. That's putting a bow on where your team's at heading into the month of October. Big 12 football is starting to finally ramp up. We are getting closer and closer to that championship game in Dallas, and we still have no idea who's going to win this conference. And that's the best part about it. Appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. My name is Jake. We will be back again next week to recap week 6 and give you guys week 7. As always, here's my sign out. We got to play it.